let's talk about pelvic pain when we're sitting down. People ask me about that all the time, and most of them come in and say, I get this terrible hip pain after I've been sitting. It's usually not in their hips, by the way. So if you are getting actual hip joint pain, whether you're sitting or standing, it's going to be up here in the front, in the groin, right there. That's your hip joint. However, most of the time when people tell me that they're having hip pain when they're sitting, this is your pelvis. Okay, so people say put your hands on your hips, you're actually put them at the top of your pelvis. This is where the hip joint is. That's where your leg bone, your femur, comes in and sits inside this socket area called the acetabulum. And then these are your bones where you're actually sitting on them. But you have these two joints in the back. They're called your sacral, because this is your sacrum. Iliac, because this is called your iliac. This is your iliac bone. And they match up here in what's called the SI joint. And that is where most people who say I'm having hip pain as I'm sitting actually have pain, is in their SI joint. So why does that happen? And what can we do about it? So again, one of the common causes of pain is dehydration in our body. And we think, no, I drink a lot of water. One lady, I said, how much water is a lot of water? Because she said, oh no, I drink a lot of water. When I said how much, but I was feeling her tissues, so I knew it wasn't a lot. At least 30 ounces a day. I was shocked, because a lot of water, a good amount of water that your body needs to stay well hydrated, is half your body weight in fluid ounces every day. So if you weigh 150, that's 75 ounces. If you weigh 190, that's 80 ounces. And if you weigh 200, that's 100 ounces. Now again, if you have a job where you're outside a lot, where you're perspiring a lot, you need to up that water intake. I usually tell people to stop at about a gallon, but again, if you're outside perspiring a lot, you may need to go with sports drinks so that you're also replenishing and restoring the electrolyte balance in your body. When we don't have good fluid exchange, our body takes fluid from some of the tissues, and as some of the less essential tissues, like say the heart and the brain and even our digestive tracts, and it will take it from the muscles around here or around our pelvises. And so then we end up getting in pain while we're sitting, because those fluids get very thick. It pulls the water molecules out, and so then we have a bunch of just cellular excrement, shall we say, but we have a bunch of stuff, proteins and other molecules that just sit in that area, and they can collect because we don't have good circulation. So it becomes really valuable to make sure you're getting enough water, and it's something super simple that pretty much anybody can get more water, right? It's a fairly available resource. So, but the other thing that can happen is that my pelvis, and this one is held together with bolts and screws, by the way, so I can't really take the pelvis and show you, but in our bodies we have ligaments that attach these bones together, and then we have muscles and ligaments back here that are attaching these bones together, and those can get out of balance, meaning this side of my pelvis actually gets scooted up compared to the other side, or gets scooted down, or gets scooted out, open, or gets scooted closed. And when they get scooted around like that, one side of your pelvis gets moved up, down, forward, back, rotated like this or like that, forward or back, then I'm putting stress on this joint right here, this sacral iliac joint, also known as the SI joint. So I've got stress on this joint, and then what do? I take my whole body weight and I set it on a chair. So now I'm actually seated on one side, but the other side doesn't have as much pressure, or vice versa. So that's why it's really important in a case of SI joint dysfunction to find an expert who can help you and can determine what actually is going on through these joints. Because if I took out these screws, you would see that this joint is actually kind of an L shape. It's not like the hip joint that's a ball and a socket that fit inside of each other. This looks, when you take apart the pelvis, it kind of looks more like the two sides of the Grand Canyon, where there's a lot of different shapes and ups and downs. And if those things get hung up on each other and stuck on each other, then it can make it very painful, because when I sit and my weight is on these two bones at the bottom of my butt, then I can put unequal, unbalanced stresses through my sacroiliac joints, and I start to get pain and stress through those joints. So in order to bring those joints into balance so that they are functioning equally, it can take a little bit of time and practice, because one, you need to look at how the bones are functioning together, in addition to how the muscles are utilizing the pelvis, the hips, the pubic symphysis joint up in the front, and the SI joints back in the back. Because the force of sitting is going to come up into the spine through these joints. So it becomes very valuable to look at it from the skeletal point of view. How are those joints interacting? Then the muscular view, from how are the muscles around these, and there's 21 muscles on each side of the pelvis and the hip joint and the SI joint. So there's 21 muscles affecting this through this area on one side, so there's 42 on both sides. So to get those two different muscle groups to function together, well, it's more than two muscle groups, to get all the muscle groups to function together, but to get the two sides even to integrate, it becomes somewhat of a challenging experience to get them to integrate. But that is probably the most common complaint, or the common problem that causes the complaints of, I get a lot of pain when I'm sitting. Usually something's going on with the SI joints, the muscles around the sacroiliac joints, and how they're interacting as this whole system, both right and left, front and back, top, upper and lower muscles. So be sure that you're taking a look at Body Power System and how Body Power System can help you balance and coordinate, as well as integrate all of those muscles that affect your body's ability to function when you're sitting, standing, and walking. I'm Mary Thomas, physical therapist and developer of the Body Power System.